Hey y'all, this is BG Codes and I am bradgarropy. In the previous video, I showed you how to set up Firebase through the console in the UI. In this video, we're going to jump into a Create React app and integrate Firebase with React. So let's get started. What you're seeing here is a totally plain Create React app setup. So let's go ahead and start by first installing Firebase. This is the Firebase SDK for like JavaScript. So we'll run npm install Firebase, and this will add it to our dependencies. Now, in the meantime, we'll open up the source directory and create a new file to hold our Firebase configuration and export the Firestore object. And the very first thing we're going to want to do in this file is import Firebase from Firebase package we just installed, the app directory. And because we're going to use Firestore as an example to pull the users that we created, we will also import Firebase/Firestore. This runs some side effects that sets up the Firebase object with Firestore. Now, when we initialize the app, we're going to need to use the config that we were shown in the console when we created our Firebase project. So we'll just define the config here, and let's go to the console to get that. So this is firebase.google.com. We'll click Go to Console in the top right. Click on our Firebase setup project. And now we'll click this cog right here next to Project Overview. We'll go to Project Settings. And if we come down here, this is the Firebase SDK snippet, and we're looking for just the config. So we can grab these values here. And we'll paste them into our config. Now you might be thinking, hey, that's not safe to put in your front end. I do actually extract these out into environment variables, but it's not necessary. These are all public information that you can commit to your repos. Once we have the config set, we're going to want to do initialize app. And we're going to pass it that config. However, we only want to initialize the application if there isn't one already. So we want to check for firebase.apps, which is an array of all the apps that have been initialized already. We're going to want to make sure to only initialize if there are no entries in the apps array, meaning its length is 0. Now, great, we've initialized Firebase, but we need access to Firestore in order to get our users. So let's declare a Firestore variable, and you can actually get a reference to the database by calling firebase.firestore method. And that's what we want to export from this file. So we'll do a named export of Firestore. Perfect. Now that we have something we can use to access the database, let's go ahead and make a function that retrieves all of our users. Let's put that in a new file. We'll make a file called users.js. And the very first thing we want to do is grab that Firestore object. So we're going to import Firestore from the neighboring Firebase file. And now we can define an arrow function called getUsers. That's going to be asynchronous. And we'll make sure to export it here at the bottom before we forget. Now, in here, we need to access Firestore. And we're going to access the collection that we called users. And we're going to call get. And what that does is it takes a snapshot of the current state of the collection, of all the documents in the collection, and we can put that into a variable called snapshot. Now, of course, this is asynchronous, so we need to await that call. Now we have the snapshot. Inside of the snapshot, there are many documents, and we can iterate over those documents. And we don't really want to do too much. Let's just log them out. So for each document in snapshot.docs, what do we want to do? We want to console.log the document. But Firebase is a little funny. You have to call .data to actually get the data out of each document. So now we have this get users function that will log out all the users in our users collection. Finally, we can integrate this into our application. This is the standard create React app application. And so let's pull in our get users function from the users file. And let's go ahead and call it here. But we want to call this in a use effect when this application loads. So we'll define a use effect, and inside of there, we'll just call get users. And let's make sure to import use effect from React. With that, we should have everything we need. When the app loads, this use effect will run, and it will get the users, which will log them to the console. So let's do npm start and see what we've got. This will take a few minutes to build. Open up the dev tools, go to the console, and we'll refresh. And what do you know? On page load, we have the 3 users as we defined in our Firestore. So let's open this up. Here we go. We have 3 documents here: bradgarropy, Wes Boss, and Scott Tolinsky. And as you can see, we're iterating over those documents. Each one has a name property with a value of bradgarropy, Wes Boss, or Scott Tolinsky. So that's it. That is how you hook up Firebase and Firestore into a Create React application. In the coming videos, I'll show you how to do the exact same thing with Gatsby and Next.js. Spoiler alert, it's pretty dang similar. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.